Today, we're going to demonstrate how to dirty ice a cake. In this video, we'll show you exactly what you're going to need and how to use those items step by step to complete a dirty icing in a matter of minutes. For this demonstration, we'll be using a 10-inch bowl scraper and spatula and a 6-inch decorating comb and icing smoother by Atiko, several items by Fat Daddy-O's, including a 24 by 36-inch fondant work mat, an 8-inch stainless steel offset spatula, a 10-inch cake knife, and a professional cake decorating turntable. Additionally, we'll be using an 8-inch round waxed cake board, ready-to-use fluffy white buttercream icing by CK Products, and our favorite, red velvet cake, already baked of course. You'll want to make sure your wax cake board and turntable are appropriately sized for the cake you're putting together. First, you'll need to place your wax cake board on top of the turntable. Next, lay down just a small dab of buttercream on the board surface so you can better secure the first layer of cake to the board. Once it's placed, you'll want to take your cake knife and cut off the top ½ inch or so of the cake by spinning the cake around on the turntable to create a nice and even, flat surface for your next layer. Making each layer flat like this will help the cake settle better and be sturdier when you present the finished product. Next, take a nice glob of buttercream icing from your tub and place it on the top of the first layer, spreading it evenly. This amount doesn't have to be exact, but you'll want to use enough to create a significant layer of icing between the first layer of cake and the second layer you'll add in just a bit. As you do this, you'll want to use one utensil to scoop out the icing and an additional utensil to spread the icing. Keeping these tools separate from the cake and icing will prevent cake crumbs from getting into your icing container. After you've covered up the top surface of the first cake layer with icing, you can add your second layer, centered directly on top of the first, and again cutting off the top little bit to get a nice and even surface to add your third layer. After you've removed this top portion, you're ready to add more icing. They call this dirty icing because as you spread the icing between the layers, cake crumbs mix into the icing, creating a dirty appearance. Once you've spread the second layer of icing, you're ready to add the third and final layer to the cake. You'll notice, however, that instead of leaving the freshly cut top facing up, we've flipped this layer over so that the surface is now facing down and the bottom of the cake layer is facing up. This gives the cake a flatter, sturdier top surface that will be less prone to fall apart or be uneven as you add more icing and decorate. Next, you'll add an even bigger glob of icing that will be enough to cover both the top of the cake as well as the sides. Make sure it's enough to prevent any of the cake itself from showing through this final coat of buttercream. For this reason, it's better to add a little bit too much icing because it's easier to remove excess than it is to add more to the cake. You'll want to take the glob of icing and spread it out over the edges of the cake with your spatula, and spread it around to the sides in a thick, even layer. Leaving the icing a bit thicker around the edges of the cake will help prevent tearing and crumbling where the cake is most vulnerable to do so. Once you've created a nice thick layer with your spatula, you'll want to go over it one final time with a bowl scraper or a large flat-edged utensil called an icing smoother. You'll want to run it along the sides of the cake first by spinning the turntable around and smoothing out the sides evenly using just a light amount of pressure. Once you've evened the sides out, you'll want to even out the icing on top of the cake by spinning the cake around and pulling from the edge of the cake towards you to keep those edges nice and sharp. Take your time and smooth out the top and sides to produce an even, well-iced cake. Once you've finished, place the cake in the freezer for about 10 minutes or so to firm up the icing. And that's how you dirty ice a cake. If you'd like more information about our products, please visit cakesuppliesforyou.com. That's cake supplies, the number 4, and the letter U.com.